Anyone that's on already? Happy Wednesday today. Hope everybody's had a nice day. Hi, Mum. Hello, Delaney's. Hope you've had a nice Wednesday. Hi, Mrs. Naylor. Hi, Mrs. Wood. Oh, Boris Johnson is live now. Big choices. Is it me or is it Boris? Say hi, Albie. Albie's been so lazy today. He is literally, this is his bed where he sleeps at night, next to my bed, and he has literally slept all day. I think he got up and had some breakfast, took himself back to bed, and has been in here ever since. So I thought I'd bring him down and plonk his bed on the table while I filmed this. He's obviously really comfy in there because he hasn't got out, even though I've carried him all the way downstairs in his igloo. I don't know if you can see his paws like crossed. Hi, Mr. M. Not sure if anyone else has got over the excitement of having our author tune in yesterday. I definitely haven't. Hopefully you've all seen the message that she sent us. Pretty cool. Really exciting. I couldn't believe it when I got that earlier. So hopefully you've seen that and appreciated it. I really wanted to say hi to Maria from my class because yesterday, Maria, you commented like 4 times on the video and none of them came up while I was filming. So I'm really sorry that I didn't say hi to you, but hi Maria, and I hope you've had a nice few days and I hope you're okay. Oh, Mrs. Henderson's on. Hi, Mrs. Henderson. Hi, Lauren and JB. How's JB doing? I hope he's okay. I hope he's not feeling too lonely in isolation. Hi, Miss Sherry. What time is it? 5 o'clock, bang on. Oh, I wanted to say hi to Jill as well. Hopefully Jill's watching and enjoying the story so far. Hi, Jill. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up once all this nonsense is out of the way. Oh, JB is a little quiet, Lauren says. Hi, Mrs. Stanley. For anyone that doesn't know, JB is Jonathan Brown, who is our class pet. He is a giant African land snail and has gone into quarantine or into self-isolation with Lauren. So being very well looked after and I'm sure educated while Lauren does her home learning every day. I've seen some pictures of him being read to and all sorts. Oh, Mr. Henderson's on as well. Brooke. Are you going to read another one? Yes, Brooke, I'd love to read another one. So keep sending requests in. I've had a few already requests for another book to do. So if you've got any books that you'd like to read that maybe we could enjoy together, then send me them in and I'll have a look at them and we'll pick a good one. Mrs. Thomas is on. Hi, Mrs. Thomas. And Mrs. Yates. Hello, Mrs. Yates. And Han. Hi, Han. Hannah can remember when we had 31 giant African land snails. We did. We had them when they were babies and they were about like smaller than your little fingernail, and we had 31 of them, one each for everyone in the class. And then they breed quite rapidly, so as soon as they got old enough we just kept Jonathan, and lots of the children ended up with one and the rest went back to Poppy's house where they came from. Hi, Lucia. Looks like Alb's going to stay for story time. Hi, Toby. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in black in your home learning book, Toby. It was just because we had loads of black pens at school, I think, from before we swapped over to blue. So don't worry at all about what you're writing with in your home learning book. It's fine. Oh, did anybody look up what jambu fruit was? Because I did, and it turns out that it is a bit like a cross between an apple and a pear. A jambu fruit. I imagine they're native to like Sri Lanka, India area. Yeah, they look quite nice, don't they? They look really juicy. I also looked up breadfruit, which was what they toasted on the fire in the last chapter. And when I read that, because they chopped it into chunks and toasted it on the fire, in my head I thought maybe it would be a bit like jackfruit. If anyone's ever had jackfruit, it's quite often used in as a meat alternative in veggie things, because it's a bit like a pulled pork type of thing if you have barbecued jackfruit. And it's in the same family as jackfruit, breadfruit. So that's quite interesting. Oh, Tom's been having a bonfire today in the garden. I bet that smelled nice. I love the smell of a bonfire. How do I get Albs in the bed? Oh, Luna never goes in hers. Well, he's actually got two of these. So he has one downstairs, a grey one, in the living room, and one upstairs. And he's always used them. We never did anything to try and get him to go into it. He just loves it. The other one is even smaller, and I'm sure he's too fat for it, but he loves cozying up inside it. So I'm afraid I don't really have any tips on how to get him to go in, or how to get Luna to go in. Maria, yes, I can see what you're writing. So that's good. Hi, Maria. I wonder if, because sometimes it seems to be the same people's comments that don't appear on the screen. So I do wonder if it depends on maybe whether you're watching it from the Facebook app, or whether you're on a laptop or on the internet version or a phone. I wonder if that's kind of, because if when I've re-watched bits of the video, the comments come up at different times than I'm saying hello. So I imagine when you're watching it, the comments come up and then I say hello at a different time, so I don't know. Toes, my cat uses my brother's bed as somewhere to sleep. Alb does like sleeping on a bed, but then he, when anyone on the bed wriggles too much, he runs off and gets in his own bed. Imi's on. Hi, Imi. Hope you're okay. Right, I think we'll start. Yeah, 6 past. Oh, Caris is on. Rich teas again. Be proud of me, my class, haven't had any rich teas today. The day's not through yet, is it? But oh, where's the book? Oh, hi, Freddie. Okay. Gonna leave Alb there. He looks keen for the story. That's in a way that you can't quite see him. Okay. So this is our 5th session of reading it, and where had we got to? So they were in the jungle. They'd escaped on Ananda the elephant, and that nice bit where they were playing in the water with him, and then suddenly they heard horses, didn't they? And Neil climbed the tree. Was it Neil that climbed up the tree? And they saw the 2 guards on horses who were looking for them, obviously, and chasing them, and eventually they went deep into the jungle, and all where horses wouldn't be able to go because the jungle was so thick and dense, and they eventually managed to lose the guards on horses, but they've lost them, but they've also got lost themselves. So we'll see what happens next. And those of you that have read the message from Nisrana, she said that the next bit coming up was her favourite bit to write, and there's a few surprises in store, so I think this is going to be a really good bit. Freddie and Jack been playing on the Xbox again. I thought you might have been. I've got a cup of tea. Don't panic, Lauren, my cup of tea is just there. Never far from a cup of tea. Okay. Chapter 21. Let's get out of here, said Chaya. Neil looked up to get his bearings, but the leaves above them were spread thickly, and the gnarled trunks of the trees scuffled with each one for room in the damp, knee-high undergrowth. The smell of decaying leaves filled the air. Wouldn't it be safer to stay here a while? Said Nawa, coming up behind them. Not that I like it here, it gives me the shivers, but until we're sure they're gone? No, said Neil, we must leave. Chaya followed Nawa and Neil as they squished past a trunk furred with caterpillars towards sparser forest. Nawa yelped and jerked to a stop, making Chaya bump into her. From the edge of a brook up ahead, a leopard stared at them, disturbed while lapping water. Chaya clamped her hand over Nawa's mouth. She held on tightly as Nawa struggled to run. Neil held up his hand. Keep still. Don't startle it. The leopard stared keenly at them, its rusty yellow spotted body reflected in the water. Chaya took a deep breath to calm herself. She needn't be afraid. Man-eaters were rare, despite what she'd told Nawa. Because she was trying to make Nawa really scared, wasn't she? By saying that there's man-eating leopards in the jungle, but obviously it's rare. Neil took gentle steps forward. He waved a finger over his shoulder for them to follow. Chaya let go of Nawa and gave her a light prod. Nawa moved forward, whimpering under her breath. Neil took a curving path, staying well out of the way of the leopard. It turned its head, watching their progress. Chaya took the shallowest of breaths, making herself as quiet as possible. As long as they didn't make any sudden movements, they'd be fine. Make yourself big, never cower down, Father had said. Nawa stepped on the hem of her skirt and stumbled to the ground. The leopard growled and stiffened. Nawa scrabbled about and sprang up with a yowl. The leopard made a sudden leap. Nawa screamed, but it had leapt away from them, springing up in the bank in one smooth bound and sprinting away in the trees. Nawa burst into tears. I'm so... Quiet, Nawa, said Chaya. Let's get out of here first. They walked briskly on, and in 10 minutes they were out of the undergrowth and into a drier, less dense part of the forest. Anyone to see Al's yawn then? Is it because I'm talking about leopards, Al? You see him very well. Can't get that bit out of the way. They walked on briskly, and in 10 minutes they were out of the undergrowth and into a drier, less dense part of the forest. Chaya exhaled. You nearly got us killed there. Did you seriously think you could outrun a leopard? Go easy on her, she's not used to these things, said Neil. Nawa, we're never out of danger here, all right? We have to stay calm. Nawa nodded, shamefaced and subdued. Chaya felt a telltale itch on her legs and lifted up the edge of her skirt. A few fat leeches were studded on her shins. Ugh. What's that? Said Nawa. Chaya dropped her skirt hurriedly. Nothing, she said. Neil frowned at Chaya. She could see a few blots of blood around the bottom of his sarong. What are you two hiding from me? Said Nawa. She lifted her skirt, and at that moment a fat leech dropped down onto her foot. It's nothing, said Neil. Just leeches. Nawa gave a blood-curdling scream that disturbed the monkeys and sent a flock of birds flying into the sky. She stamped her feet and scrabbled at her legs, but Neil pulled her hands off. Stop it! It'll only get infected if you pull them off. Are you mad? I need to get them off! Nawa tried to claw at her leg, but Neil held her arms. Oh, I think I'd have to do that as well. I mean, it says you shouldn't. But you can imagine how if a leech was attached to your leg, you'd be desperate to try and pull it off. No, Nawa, their mouths will stay embedded in your skin if you do that. No. So what do I do? Nawa stamped and wailed like a demented person. They'll drop when they're full. Seriously, just give it a few minutes. Chaya sighed. She didn't want to tell Neil that she told him so. We're okay here, she said to Nawa. It's only the dampest parts of the jungle that have them. Nawa looked up at the sky and squeezed her eyes shut, tears seeping out of them as she wept silently. One by one, leeches started dropping from their legs. Nawa? Chaya kicked away the blood-gorged lumps of leeches that had fallen off the girl. You're okay. They're all gone now. Look, you're fine. Neil looked surprised at Chaya's softer tone. It was almost as if she was starting to feel sorry for Nawa. But Nawa pushed Chaya away and stalked ahead. She was properly sobbing now, walking blindly, with tears streaming down her face. After a few minutes, she stopped and sat on a stone, sobbing down into her lap. So that's what you wanted salt for? I thought you wanted to cook. I hate this place. I really hate this place, this jungle, this country, everything. Why did I come? I want to go home. Neil went and squatted down near her. You had no choice. It'll be better when... I did have a choice, screamed Nawa. I didn't have to come, and you certainly didn't want me to. When the explosion came from the palace, all the monks rushed to see what was going on, and I went with them. My father must be sick with worry, and it's all my fault. Neil looked at Chaya with a frown. Chaya shrugged. She couldn't understand it either. But Nawa, why did you want to come? Because I was a fool. I wanted to have what you two have. Nawa was almost hysterical, muddy streaks down her face and on her blouse. You're always doing things, important, interesting things. I don't have any friends, only my father and nanny and servants. Nobody else, not a soul. So I made you think I had to come with you. She rocked back and forth, head in her hands. No wonder Nawa had looked so guilty earlier. How incredibly stupid she had been. This was a life or death situation, and Nawa had thrown herself into it because she didn't have any friends to do things with. See how stretching. How lonely must you be to do something like that? This was some level of recklessness, even by Chaya's own standards. Nawa, listen. Chaya bent down and offered her hand. We've got to go. Come on, we have to get moving. Nawa stared at Chaya's hand, then took it and got up unsteadily. We'll talk about this as we go along, okay? Said Neil. We don't have any time to lose. Nawa nodded shakily. She was still teary and hiccupy, but sniffled and walked along with them. Yes, Neil's right. Chaya strode next to her. We'd better keep moving. The king's going to send all his men into the jungle now that he knows exactly where we are. And that's the end of chapter 21. Who else is on? Oh, Mrs. Reese is on. Hi, Mrs. Reese. Ryan's on. Katie's on. Hi, Katie, and Alex, if you're there as well. Casey's here. Hi, Casey. Jack's on. Hi, Jack. He's just finished his rich teas. Oh, Lucia has had chocolate cake. Yum. I can't believe Alb's stayed for the story. When you see his hand stretched out. On camera, Alb. Okay. Chapter 22. Chaya glanced at Nawa out of the corner of her eye as they walked. Apart from the occasional sniffle, she was quiet. Neil cleared his throat. We should stop for lunch soon, I guess. Oh, is that enough, Al? Excuse me. Finally got up after sleeping all day. Put that down there for you. Neil cleared his throat. We should stop for lunch, I guess. Anyone hungry? Silence from Nawa. I am, said Chaya. Wish there was some more of your sweets, Nawa. They were so good. I agree. Neil nodded hard. Best sweets I've ever eaten. Nawa shuffled along, looking at no one. Neil caught Chaya's eye. She shrugged. Noah would come round when she was ready. How much off course do you think we are? Asked Chaya. Neil shrugged. Hopefully not much. If we keep heading south, we can still get to Gal, just by a slightly longer route. Chaya's heart sank. Now the guards knew they were in the jungle, they wouldn't stop searching till they found them. They stopped near a river and sat down on some large rocks, Noah staying as far away from them on the bank as possible. Neil got into the river and walked ahead, trying to catch the darting fish with his bare hands. Chaya wandered over to Noah and tried to get a fire going with 2 rocks and a few sticks the way Neil had done. But 5 minutes later she was still bashing them together, and even after smashing a bit of a thumb, she hadn't got so much of a spark. She turned to Noah and wiped her hair away from her sweaty forehead. Do you know how to do this, Noah? I wish I'd watched when Neil was doing it. Noah shook her head without looking at Chaya. Chaya threw the stones into the river, where they bounced on a rock and splashed into the water. Do you think he's all right? Asked Noah in a small voice. Who, Neil? Chaya turned to see him splashing about in the water. Not Neelan, the elephant. Oh, Chaya shrugged. The king's men would have taken him back by now, which is the best thing for him, really, since, he's been brought up in captivity. Noah nodded. Neil came clambering up to them, carrying 2 glistening silver fish. Thought you might have a fire going. We tried, but it didn't work. Come on, Noah, let's get Neil some more sticks for the fire. Noah got up slowly and followed her. Chaya collected branches and laid them in a pile, and Noah made trips back and forth, taking them to Neil. I think that's enough now. Chaya threw the last of the sticks into the pile. Noah gently poked some plants with her shoe. Have you seen this? The leaves fold up where you touch them. And they straighten out soon after. Chaya came over to Noah. They're called touch-me-nots. Not a big deal, they're just weeds. Strange. Noah touched different parts over and over, watching the leaves curl up, then straighten out again. The world is full of amazing things. Plants that can feel, elephants that can swim, squirrels that can fly. I wish I knew all this stuff. You'll learn. I know, I've got to know so much already. Noah looked up at Chaya. I was wondering, could you teach me to climb trees? Sure. Noah smiled. Thanks. I've just thought of what we can do if we see another leopard. We just climb a tree. Chaya sighed. Hey, Neil yelled. Do you think she sighed because leopards can climb trees? They probably can, they're like cats. Alb is really good at climbing trees. Hey, Neil yelled. He had stuck the 2 fish on a stick and was holding it over a fire. Do I have to do everything around here? Chaya scrambled up and took over from Neil. He went off and sat in the shade, fashioning a sort of pitcher out of wood. It was scorching near the fire. Smoke curled around the fish and singed at Chaya's fingers. How long do you think I need to hold it like this? Noah shrugged. Until it looks cooked. Chaya held it closer to the flames. Wait, said Noah. I'm sure that should be enough now. Yeah, this should be okay. It looks nicely coloured. Coloured? Neil came over and slapped his forehead. Those look burnt. They probably taste good. Chaya put them on the leaves and passed one to Neil. And that's all that matters. She broke off a piece and took a bite. Ugh. Neil spat out his mouthful. Noah put hers down without so much as a nibble. Honestly, it was a simple task. Neil rubbed the back of his hand on his tongue. Do I have to do everything? It's not a big deal. Chaya got up and tossed the charred fish away. Let me find some fruit or something. People make mistakes, Neelan, said Noah, shaking her head as a surprised Neil. She stood up and went with Chaya. I'll help you look. Oh. Chaya was at a loss for words. Thank you. They went off to find some food together. Ah, see, they're getting on now. We said we thought they might end up friends. Oh, I've got hair on my face somewhere. See how else is on. Oh, Miss Watson's on. Hi, Miss Watson. And Steph's on. Hi, Steph. Miss Potter. Mr. Pearson, who I don't know why I call Mr. Pearson. Lee. Hi, Lee. And Emily's on again. Emily's cat's also good at climbing trees. Have you ever had to climb a tree after your cat, Emily, to get him down? Because I have. Chapter 23. How much further is Gal? Nawa's face was red and sweaty as she shuffled along next to Chaya. I think we're about halfway there, said Neil. Nawa groaned. Once we're out of the jungle, we'll be okay, said Chaya. I mean, we could hitch a ride on a cart or something then. She looked hopefully at Neil. Yes, I'm sure we'll find something. It's important to keep moving now and put as much distance as possible between us and where we were last seen. And we need to make up for that whole detour we took, said Chaya. I wish we could have another break, said Nawa. I'm dying. Oh, come on, don't be such a wimp, said Chaya. 5 minutes, please. Nawa sagged down on a tree stump. Neil glanced at Chaya. Let's give her 5 minutes. Fine, just 5, and counting. Chaya picked at some wild mint leaves while they waited, crushing them in her fingers and inhaling their aroma. A squashed-looking owl, the colour of dried leaves, roosted in a branch overhead. Neil handed Nawa the pitcher of water he was carrying, and she drank greedily. Thank you, she whispered. Wait a minute. Neil held up a hand and listened intently. Oh no, not again. Chaya pricked up her ears. All she heard was the twitch of the owl and rustling of leaves. They're here, said Neil. Come on, Nawa, get up. Chaya looked back. They could see again. That same message as yesterday came up. It seems to be back on. I hope it's okay. Chaya pricked up her ears. All she heard was the twitch of the owl and rustling of leaves. They're here, said Neil. Come on, Nawa, get up. Chaya looked back. They could see only about 30 feet behind them. I don't hear anything, she said. Trust me, they're here. They've got to be close. With a great sound of hooves, horsemen erupted into view in the distance. Neil was off like a hare, pulling Nawa by her wrist. Chaya sprinted after them. The jungle was sparse here, the horses easily catching up with them. Chaya vaulted over a fallen tree. She saw Nawa's dress flash ahead and kept up with her. The thuds of horse hooves were getting closer. She knew Nawa was already tired. It was only minutes before they'd be captured, surely. The horsemen were practically at her back. The hoofbeats vibrated through Chaya, pounding into her head. She burst ahead, almost passing Nawa, but slowed down for her. She couldn't see Neil anywhere. Where's Neil? Chaya screamed. Nawa looked around in terror, but kept on ahead. The horsemen seemed to have divided, some of them going off in another direction. Chaya looked around wildly. A group of horsemen were chasing something on the far left. They disappeared from sight as she pounded after Nawa, a small army of guards at their back. Chaya and Nawa were alone in the jungle, being chased by the king's guards. And Neil was gone. Nizrana was right. This is getting really exciting. Let's just see how long chapter... Oh, it's short. We'll have another chapter. Chapter 24. I'll just have some tea. How great is this book? Chapter 24. Chaya skirted a thick banyan tree, gaining a few seconds as the horseman went round. She kept Nawa in sight. There was no way she was losing her too. A great roaring noise ahead made Nawa pull up and whip round to face Chaya. The men were closing in behind them. The horses snarled and the men's uniforms glinted, spears pointing towards the girls. Chaya grabbed Nawa and pulled her forward. It's okay, I know what that noise is. She'd recognised the sound of water. There was probably a waterfall up ahead. Come on. A warm spray hit Chaya as she ran on with Nawa. Behind them, the men got closer. There was a rank, leathery smell from the horses, puffs of dust in the air, and ahead of them, from somewhere they couldn't yet see, mists of water. They rounded the corner, and there it was, a gigantic waterfall, crashing and roaring. Curtains of pure white water gushed down, falling far below into an aquamarine pool. The girls were drenched as soon as they stepped onto the ledge. They were cornered. From behind them came the gallop of horses as the men rounded the bend. Chaya looked down into the pool. It was almost circular at the bottom, broad and clear, before thinning into a long strip of churning river. There was only one option. The pool looked deep enough. They're going to jump. Jump, Nawa! She screamed over the roaring water. Nawa stared at her in fright, her hair hanging in wet strings around her face. "No!" she shrieked, her voice swallowed by the crashing of the water. The horseman approached slowly, wearing smug expressions. "Nawa, it's safe!" yelled Chaya. "Nawa, listen to me!" But Nawa didn't react. She stared wildly from the men and back to the waterfall. They couldn't get caught now. The king would have put them to death at once. The king would have them put to death at once. Chaya reached out and pushed Nawa into the waterfall. Nawa's scream died on her lips as she tipped down into the abyss of crashing water. Chaya jumped in after her. She felt herself whistle through the air before plunging into the water below and slicing down into its cool, swirling depths. The deafening roar muted as she plummeted to the sandy bottom. She kicked hard and surfaced quickly into the rumble and spray, looking around for Nawa through hair plastered across her eyes. The current pulled her down the river with the gushing water. Eventually she was spat into a narrow stream of water. Where was Nawa? The water was fast flowing, but the river was narrow here, and the banks were fairly close. Chaya looked up and saw the ledge they'd jumped from high above her. It would take at least half an hour for the men and their horses to find their way down by land. Something brownish pushed past her downriver, and a cold fear seized Chaya. A crocodile. Here. She struck out towards the shore, hitting her palms on rocks as she struggled against the flow. The brown thing rushed ahead, and Chaya saw a white hand loll out on the side. She squinted at it through the mist. It wasn't a crocodile. It was Nawa. Chaya struck out towards her. Why wasn't Nawa making for the shore? "Nawa!" she screamed. "Nawa!" A memory came back to her. "Is it deep?" Nawa had asked about the river. Her screaming on top of Ananda, "He's going straight for the water." And she'd stayed on his back the whole time they'd swum in the river. I thought that at the time, because she's from the desert, isn't she? So Nawa was scared of water and probably couldn't swim. And Chaya had just pushed her down an 80-foot waterfall. And we're going to leave it there, because that's a really, really good cliffhanger. And we'll be on chapter 25 tomorrow. So exciting. I wonder what's happened to Nawa. Well, we saw what's happened to her. I wonder if she's okay. So exciting. If you've got the book, don't read on. Wait until tomorrow. And we'll do this again at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Hope everybody has had a nice day today, and that everybody has a nice day tomorrow, and that everyone's still finding things to keep them busy. I've put a message on the website for my class about emailing me. So if you're in 5H, or if you know there's someone that isn't on Facebook watching these, can you just remind them to look on the website, and it should have gone out at the 5 o'clock email as well. Just check the website, please, and email me. And that's it, I think. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and